Brothers and sisters, welcome to episode number 97 in the book of Genesis. I'm thinking today of the movie Eraser in 1996. Arnold Schwarzenegger starred in it. And the great tagline is, when the bad guys get it at the end, you've just been erased. Now, I'm trying to get into the ancient Middle East mindset where if you don't have a bloodline, it's like being erased. And I think that's the motivation between the daughters of Lot as they do some scheming. And so we've been to the story of Lot's family, and his wife looked back in a displeasing way, and Lot's done all kinds of bad things. And that focus continues today, and it focuses now on his daughters. Now his daughters kind of act faithlessly, and they take control of things, kind of like Abraham and Sarah did, and commit this sexual sin and drunkenness and incest and sex outside of the boundaries of marriage. So I'm going to read the story from Genesis chapter 19. We'll pause a few times to say where we are in the story. This is Genesis 19. I'm going to start in verse 29. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, that's Sodom and Gomorrah and the whole area there, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrowing when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. So we see that God is remembering Abraham and doing so by committing actions on his behalf. And the person that he's helping is his nephew Lot. So the Lord is acting on behalf of Lot as he remembers Abraham. Now verse 30. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and lived in the hills with his two daughters, for he was afraid to live in Zoar. Now you remember when the angels came and said, hey, you got to get out of Sodom, he says, well, I can't go up in the hills. I got a sore knee or something. How about I go to Zoar? The angels agree. They take him to Zoar. He survives, but Lot sees this incredible destruction. And I think eventually Lot sort of gets religion and says, the Lord wanted me up in the hills, and that's where I'm going to go. So Lot lives in the hills that he was supposed to live in and doesn't live in Zoar. Let's see here. And verse 31 now. And the firstborn, there's two Lot daughters, the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there's not a man on earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth. Now, the point is, that's not true. There are men left on the earth. There was a local destruction because of the Sodom and Gomorrah thing. So it doesn't mean that conveniently available men does not equal starting sex with your father, which is what ends up happening. So they take their family line into their own hands and into their own pants, if you will, without benefit of marriage. And this is a way that all the earth travels, they say, by sex and reproduction, as if, hey, we're entitled to this. The Lord made us all sexual beings, therefore how do I get to do sex in a way that I wish? But the point is, there's a way that the Lord would have, and there's a way which he's made clear. In Jude, verse 7, it says, just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities, which likewise indulged in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desire, they serve as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire. So God has a way that he wishes sexuality to be displayed naturally and morally. So remember Hagar, though, and we're going to keep coming back to Hagar because I think the daughters of Lot do this wrong, where Hagar says, God, I see you seeing me in my infertility, in my reproductive difficulty. Genesis 16:13. She calls the name of the Lord who spoke to her, you are a God of seeing, for here truly I have seen him who looks after me. All right, so let's go back to the scheming and the so-called urgency of Lot's daughters, kind of like Abraham and Sarah did, that they may preserve an offspring, so that we don't be erased. So we're going to scheme with our father. It's our desire to preserve our family line more than to honor God and his plans. Verse 32, come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, and we will preserve our offspring from our father. So they made their father drink wine that night. So drunkenness here, this is another recurring problem of Noah. Does goodness ever come out of drunkenness? And is this story put here for our blessing or model behavior? No, it's a story. It's a cautionary tale of drunkenness, nakedness, and misconception, if you will. All right, and here we go back to the story. And the firstborn lay in with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. And the next day the firstborn said to the younger, behold, I lay last night with my father. Let's make him drunk on wine tonight also. So there's no excuse for drunkenness night number 1 or number 2. Then you go and lie with him, that we may preserve our offspring with our father. And they made their father drink wine that night as well. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son, called his name Moab. He's the father of Moabites to this day. And the younger bore a son, called his name Ben-Ammi. He's the father of the Ammonites to this day. So the Moabites and the Ammonites were 2 of Israel's most troublesome enemies. All right, so in conclusion, God sees the moral backgrounds that we consider inconvenient. And let's speak to female humans. Daughters can do the wrong thing. They can scheme. Females can do the wrong thing with the agency of their sexualities. Males can do the wrong thing with their agency as well, as Lot does here with drunkenness. He didn't learn his lesson on night number 1 or night number 2. This story here serves to condemn drunkenness, incest, scheming, and mistrust of God. I think the conclusion that I'm drawing here is, let's remember the servant Hagar, who remembers the Lord in seeing her. And she's an example of the good theology. She's a God who sees God seeing her in difficulty. She calls out upon the name of the Lord. You're a God of seeing. I have seen him. I see you seeing me. I've seen him who looks after me. So you have something, podcast person, you have something that you're tempted to short circuit by your scheming too. Maybe it's a fear of being erased like these people, or maybe it's something else. But let's call on the name of the Lord. You're the God of seeing. You're seeing me. I am not alone. You are here. You see, you know. Help us to be faithful in these difficult things. Thanks for listening.